What's valuable now is not the information. It's how quickly can you get them through the transformation? If I got a flat tire on the road, it's like, am I going to pay a person more because they have 20 years of experience changing tires, but it takes 5 hours because they want to it's going to take that much time? Or is it more valuable to have a person come in, whether they've have 50 years of experience doing that or not, to change my darn tire in 15 minutes so I can get back on the road?
Hey, welcome back to Start With a Win. This is a 2-part episode, and this is part 2 of that 2-part episode. So if you haven't listened to part 1, make sure you go back and listen or watch part 1 on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, and come back here and listen or watch part 2. I hope you enjoy.
Obviously, this is one of the key aspects to getting SPI started was your podcasting, and you started giving value through your podcast. Everybody's afraid to give out their good stuff. And I find that interesting because, they're like, well, give me your name and your email address and I'll give you something good. Is that the way to approach life? Because everybody wants to like you and trust you before they give you anything. Should you, what's your perspective on this? And I know what the answer is going to be, but I want our listeners to hear truly the good stuff is you delivering a package of great information, but you can give away bits and pieces. Is that accurate, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you want to come from a place of giving, not taking, especially if it's a first impression, right? Like imagine going into a gym and there's like a party going on and you go up to a group of people and you're like, hey guys, you want to buy this Tupperware? It's like, who are you? Like, even if you're charismatic, that just does not come across well.
Right.
Versus listening, having a conversation, and then earning the right to tell them what you have going on.
Oh,
right?
Strong.
So this is exactly, we talked about Tim Ferriss earlier, right? When he wrote his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, like nobody knew who he was initially. How did he get known, and how did he get that book to become a bestseller? Not just because it's a great book, because people have to still get the book first, but how do they know about it? He went to conferences and he said, you know what? I'm going to go and see what everybody else is up to and then earn that ask, oh, well, what do you do, Tim? That's when the book would come into play. So he would go and just dive into, hey, what do you have going on? How can I help you with this? Like, that's really interesting, to a point where people would then go, well, Tim, like I've told you all about me. What do you have going on? Oh, okay. 4-Hour Workweek, boom. Obviously, it's a hook for people. So then they invite him on their podcast or connect on the blog, and then now it's a bestseller, right? So same thing. Providing value first in some way, shape, or form. And even in the mechanisms of like you had mentioned, like capturing email addresses, right? We often come at a place of like, hey, I have the good stuff, but you have to like give me something first. What if you gave something first and then a person was like, this is so good, like where can I get more? Oh, here it is over here.
Wow.
Right. And so that's just a little change in the mind about like how to approach this. And I think that's especially now more important than ever, because we've just been tuning out how it's been done for years, right? And we see a pitch like that to just like, hey, get my thing, but put your email in first. It's like we don't even notice it anymore because it's so commonplace and it doesn't make us feel anything. Make a person feel something and get to the point where they go, take my money, right? Like that's what you want. You want a person to just go, wow, that was so helpful. Take my money. And I know what you might be thinking is like, well, I don't want to give away my best stuff. Well, here's the thing, like that stuff is available everywhere now. Times have changed. Information is free everywhere. So how are you going to differentiate that or make that unique to you and the experience that you can offer that person so that they will want the same information, but from you in the way that you package it, in the way that you make them feel, and perhaps the speediness to the transformation, right? What's valuable now is not the information. It's how quickly can you get them through the transformation, right? If I got a flat tire on the road, it's like, am I going to pay a person more because they have 20 years of experience changing tires, but it takes 5 hours because they want to they just, it's going to take that much time? Or is it more valuable to have a person come in, whether they have 50 years of experience doing that or not, to change my darn tire in 15 minutes so I can get back on the road? I'm paying that person, right? And that should feel good to you who's like listening, who's like, oh, I'm not an expert. I don't have a PhD in this. Like, am I qualified to help somebody? In fact, you are more qualified to help people because you're that much more connected to the exact experience that a person in your audience might be going through, right? I would much rather learn from a person who has just gone through the thing that I'm about to do versus, the 40-year PhD who's teaching at a lecture hall on a podium who's probably far removed from exactly how it works today, right? Like it's such an important thing to realize that you have a direct tie to who it is your audience is because you probably just went through the same thing that you're teaching in most cases.
The speediness is interesting to me because I think about YouTube videos that we, watch constantly. And I remember a long time ago, the algorithm rewarded you for having a long video. And so now when those videos come into my feed, I'm just like, I need to fast forward. I got to get to teach me how to do the thing. I don't want to watch 25 minutes of you building up to the thing. Like, let's get this going.
Yeah.
This is really fascinating. I hope everybody's listening really, really well to this because most of our listeners are entrepreneurs or some sort of a business person. A lot of them are in the real estate or the mortgage space, which obviously there were leads and buyers and sellers just pouring in before, call it March of 2022. And then it just went kaput. And now everybody's like, I need leads, I need buyers and sellers. No, you need to give value. If you're listening to what Pat's saying here, it's go give some value. And then what happens is you get that, that factor of reciprocity. Dr. Robert Cialdini and his, what is it? 6 factors of influence now, something like that. Reciprocity is one of the most powerful aspects of business that Pat's talking about here. And it's really what Pat's been doing to build his businesses over the years. So, Pat, I want to dig into that a little bit more. What else? Yeah. So we talked about, you mentioned your study piece for the architect that was, 12 years ago, 14 years ago, something like that. What are you engaged in right now in business that you got going on?
First of all, I just want to make sure we cover what you just mentioned about the what we need to focus on right now because it's so important. And I know this is true. The people in real estate, for example, who are winning right now are the ones who have spent the years to build those relationships ahead of time. Right. Those people who they've already spent time with, who maybe didn't need a home back then, but now need one now, they're going to come to the people who they already know and have a relationship with. So as my buddy Jordan Harbinger, another fellow podcaster, says, you want to dig your well before you're thirsty, right? Which means build those relationships, carry them forward, because if you're digging your well while you're thirsty, it's too late. And a lot of people are reactive, and that is more in that case versus being proactive. And so building relationships is key, and that's why podcasting is so great. Some of my students in the podcasting course that I have don't care how many listens they have. They want to use their podcast platform to essentially be a way to connect with other people in the industry, right, and to build relationships with them, which then carry over into business in some way, shape, or form. So that's huge. Anyway, what I'm excited about right now, besides the always thing that I talk about, which is what we talked about, providing value, is community right now. Especially post-pandemic, it's like people were craving connection. And, actually the story is 2019 came around, and I had put on an event in San Diego, and we had 500 entrepreneurs in my audience come to town, fly from all around the world to come and be with each other. And yes, there were great people on stage, and we taught things. But after running the survey after that event, asking, well, what was your favorite part of it? They said, my favorite part was just connecting with other people in the hallways. And I was like, wow, we could have just put together a hall and just let you free and not have to plan anything, and it would have been valuable, right? Which is like, wow, okay, so let's do more of that in 2020. And FlynnCon was going to happen, then it got canceled or rescheduled to 2021, and then it got canceled because it just looked like it was never going to happen. So we said, well, how can we bring that similar feel online of those moments in between the hallways? Well, we need to build a community and create a space, a safe space for these people who are like-minded, who don't often get to speak the same language with other people, into one place to feel that connection. And yes, there were places like Facebook groups and LinkedIn and other things, but there's too many distractions there, and that's not why they go there. We need a destination that people can come to. So we built a community inside of SPI called SPI Pro. And these were for people who had an established business. So we did have an application process. And when we launched this, we had 500 entrepreneurs come in and pay to get access to each other. And we ran a survey in there too. We said, okay, well, what do you want to see in this community? Do you want more content? Do you want workshops? Do you want all these things? Content was the last thing people wanted. Because like we said earlier, people don't need more information. What do they need? They need and crave connection. They want guidance and support. And that's what these communities can offer. So now, for the first time in the history of SPI, we have recurring income coming in.
That's awesome. And for those of you wondering, first of all, the money's in the membership. Okay, membership-based organizations that monthly recurring revenue coming from Remax. We had 140,000 agents paying us every single month around the world in that system.
Yeah,
it's really a cash flow cow there. It just continues to cash flow for you as a business. So if you can take your business and figure out, okay, how do I gain a membership here? Everything from a concierge service to, Pat offering courses and training and things like that, to group mentoring and coaching. Just all of these different aspects has to be incredibly valuable though. And it, realistically, Pat's right. They could go someplace else and get this information, but they're not getting it curated in a way that is most effective for them, except for by their peers. And I keep going back to the thought of Jim Rohn, we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, so choose carefully. And it's interesting because I bet you if you look in your membership base, you'd be like, okay, yeah, all these people are bringing each other up because they are raising their averages when it comes to what they do and how they do it. And then it builds, do you see competition going on in there of people trying to, accomplish things to become better or help each other get better or be accountable?
We purposefully make that happen. We have challenges that happen, for example, in the community to push people, right? We had one that was done last year that was huge, a 60-second pitch challenge, like get on video, get uncomfortable, no cuts, no edits, pitch your business. And yeah, we all knew each other's businesses, but to be forced to kind of elevator pitch it in front of everybody else was an amazing exercise, and people stepped up. And that exercise alone carried forward into their business and how they talked about it on other podcasts, on their blog, in emails. And that exercise alone challenged them enough to now where they are stepping up. And yes, we had a contest, we had voting and other things. And Maria, who was the winner there from Bloom and Grow Radio, she's now since take that message from that little exercise, and she's published a book and all these other things. And one thing that helps sell the membership is to feature those kinds of stories, like what I just talked about with Maria. Like I invited her on the podcast, and I didn't ask her to come on and say, my questions weren't like, hey, tell me why SPI Pro is the best thing you've ever had. Tell me why SPI Pro is awesome and everybody should get in. No, that's not good. I just what was life like before you were in Pro? What did you learn, and how did that change the trajectory of your business? And just naturally through those kinds of questions, SPI Pro comes up. The help and the connections. She's name dropping other members, hey, shout out to Jim and Carrie in there. And if you're on the outside listening in now, you're like, what is this thing? This is amazing. I should look into this as well, because look at what this has created, and I want that too. And this is very Donald Miller story brand approach to business, which is the way I think all business should be done. You are not the hero of the story. Your customers are, your students and subscribers are, and in my case, the members of SPI Pro are the heroes. So let's tell their transformation story, and that will attract people to come in, and that's what's been working.
Awesome. So these people can see themselves getting better before they get better, and it gives them that energy and that drive to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, this is I don't want to say it's the future. It's the current. It's the future for you if you haven't started doing it. But you're either getting better or you're getting worse. There's no staying the same in life, because if you sit there today and do nothing, and yesterday passed you by, and somebody did something in your space to get better than you. So, and it's not about being the best, but it's about being the best that you can be for yourself. Right. How's the growth of this going for you? Are you seeing some good interest? What brings people to it? Is it mostly word of mouth? Are you marketing? How are you getting that?
Well, word of mouth is key, but we have the podcast and email marketing as a part of this. All the strategies and tactics that an entrepreneur might use to get this message out. But really, it's just showcasing these stories again and really making the value clear. This is a very important thing. No matter how you're sharing the message needs to hit home, right? And you need to know, again, who it is you're serving, what's the language that they use, and really make it an obvious choice. You almost want it to be positioned in a way, whatever it is you're selling, you always want it to be positioned in the way where it's a no-brainer, right? If people are starting to ask questions and get confused about the messaging, well, then how in the heck are they going to make the decision to move forward with it, right? So the messaging, the positioning has been something we've been working on for a very long time, to a point now where like it's very clear, especially economically today, it's very difficult to consider like investing a ton of money into things. And, many courses like what we're teaching can cost thousands of dollars. So how might we position this in a way and make the economics almost a no-brainer? Our online courses are $499 to $699. Power Up Podcasting has been serving thousands of people. It's earned over $2.5 million since 2017. $499 to get into that course. Well, you take that course, you're kind of on your own. I mean, you watch the lessons, you can get through it. It has a high success rate, sure, but you're on your own. Now, consider that versus $59 a month. You can get access to not just that course, but all the courses we have. You'll know exactly which courses to take next. You'll have support from the SPI team, and you'll have access to other people who are doing this alongside with you for $59 a month. I'm not here to pitch your audience, but you can see what's going on as an example of like what we're trying to take the lead on. So smartpassiveincome.com/all-access. All-access. And again, you go there, it's such an obvious choice because here's what happens. More people are gonna give it a chance, right? $59 a month. Sure, I'll try it for a month and see what works out is probably what a lot of people are gonna say. They're gonna get so much value that we're hoping they stay on for, if they stay on for 9 to 10 months, it would have made up for that cost. And then some, they'll stay even longer. So it's a win all around. We'll eventually, if we do the things that we're supposed to do, have a higher lifetime value per customer, right? Lifetime value. We're in this for the long run, right? Not for the short gain. And so this is a lower barrier to entry. More people will come in, and hopefully we can keep people longer if we do our job. Now, since we just launched this, it's our job to make sure that it does that. So we're going to have a lot of conversations, surveys, focus groups, et cetera, to ensure that what we're creating is going to keep people in longer. And we only should keep people in longer if it is worth staying in longer. It's like, this is the future. This is what we're like. Yeah. Our product is no longer the course. Our product is community.
Pat, I do have one question that I ask all of our amazing guests on the show, and I'm sure you have a really cool answer to this, but how do you start your day with a win?
I use a journal. I have a built-in mechanism to determine what I can be grateful for to start the day. In practicing gratefulness, we've all heard from everybody from Tony Robbins to Tim Ferriss to everybody. And so, I've developed this strategy using what's called the 5-minute journal. And the 5-minute journal is something I have at my nightstand on right next to me, so that when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I write 3 things that I'm just super grateful to have in my life. It could be business related, it could be family, whatever it might be, just whatever I want to wake up and be grateful for, I write down. And seeing it right there, writing it down, helps me internalize that and realize that, even if things go to crap today, I can still be grateful for something, right? And that's a huge sort of strategy that I use to just set myself up for success. Now, is every day perfect? No. Is every day awesome because I do that? No. I mean, stuff happens, but I always have that to go back to, and that's a check-in with myself and my mental every single day. Now, the 5-minute journal also has, the end of the day, you write down 3 things that you wish you could have done better or improve upon. So not only am I waking up every day grateful, I'm also thinking about, well, how can I be even a better person tomorrow? And so this has really helped me even just incrementally, get better. And of course, those incremental changes exponentially grow you over time.
Awesome. Pat Flynn, great guy, great friend, amazing podcaster and businessman. Make sure you check him out at Smart Passive Income, the podcast, and smartpassiveincome.com. Pat, thank you for being on Start With a Win.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Mark.
And thank you for listening to Start With a Win. Hey, if you want to get more great content, head over to adamcontos.com. And if you struggle with managing your time, fill out the form there and get our foolproof time management system, which will help you to manage your time like the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. Remember, until next time, start with a win. All right.
Great conversation. Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, that was super fun. Hey, thank you for leading that. That was great.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, I have a question for you now that we're over here on YouTube. When you first started, did you just love the way you looked and sounded on camera?
Are you, there's a reason why like my first 7 videos did not have my face included in them.
Because I know that's a big hurdle for a lot of people, right? Like, I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look on camera. And so, we always are trying to encourage people like, hey, you have to like push through that pain.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that your message or the value that you're providing is just way more important than the way that you look and sound. Like, how did you overcome that?
Going to sound really bad, but my wife and I were joking the other day because we listen to a lot of music. Ed Sheeran pops on, and she's like, "Man, he's so hot." And I'm like, "Really though?" And she's like, "Yeah, I mean, it's not just how he looks. I wouldn't if I saw him on the street, I wouldn't care. Like, he's not that good looking, but his music just makes me feel something." And I like, he's so hot. I'm like, maybe I could coin like, just if somebody asked that question, which is a very common question, she's like, "Well, look at Ed Sheeran, not the best looking guy in the world." But everybody loves him because of his message, his music, and how he makes people feel. So it doesn't matter what you look like or what you sound like because you're not doing music like him. If you're doing music, it's a little bit different conversation. But just show up and be there and provide value. And it doesn't matter, right?
It's fascinating because, that parallel to what you just said, Pat, very much is with that Maya Angelou quote. People won't remember how you or what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's it. When you turn off, when you end your podcast, if I listen to a good podcast, I listen, watch a good YouTube video or something like that. I know it was really good because I'm running to take notes on the content that I saw. You talked about the journal. I've got mine right here that I'm always putting information into. Also, I'm like, all right, I got to put this down. That was awesome, amazing, stuff like that. So I'm with you. How did it make you feel? And that's the great question. I have one final question for you that
sure.
we touched on it a few times during the conversation. You kept saying their words when you talked about the audience. And I know, like Ryan Levesque has ask, that ask method. You look for the words that people use, things like that. Is that what context you're talking about? You want to regurgitate the words that people are using because that's how they're thinking? Or, I mean,
exactly.
Can you unpack that a little bit more?
You could have the best, most helpful information in the world, but unless you're speaking the same language, it's just not even going to matter to who it is you're speaking to. My wife is a huge fan of the Backstreet Boys, by the way. And when
tell me why,
exactly. That's the song, right? Yeah. But I was asking her, like, how did you, like, do you remember when you became a fan of the Backstreet Boys? Like, can you take me back? And what was supposed to be like a 10-minute conversation turned into like 3 hours, by the way. But anyway, going back, she remembered like the first time this band mattered to her. She had heard them a bunch of times on the radio before, but didn't care. But there was one moment when she was 15, she's telling me that she had broken up with her boyfriend. She was sad, upset, crying in her bed, right? And then the song pops on that she heard many times before, but this time it hit different because every word in that song was describing everything she was going through. It was Quit Playing Games with My Heart by the Backstreet Boys, by the way.
Nice.
And that was like the activation moment for her because they were describing what she was going through in that moment. And when a person, like, I think it was Jay Abraham who said, if you can describe the problem better than your target customer, they're going to automatically assume you have the solution.
Right.
Right. So that language is key. Like understanding the problems that they're going through is one thing, but learning the language and like literally having spreadsheets of the words and key phrases that they use so that you can just copy, paste, and put. I mean, there's a reason why the subtitle of my book, Will It Fly, is what it is because those were literal things that people mentioned in surveys about why they didn't start their business. I don't have enough time and I'm afraid of failing. So let's just make that the subtitle. And bam, it became a Wall Street Journal bestseller as a self-published book. So the language is key. It's absolutely key.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for being on with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, Pat, thanks so much. It's just been awesome to connect with you actually, like in person, well, virtually in person, just especially, both Adam and I have been fans of a lot of stuff you've been doing over the years. So thanks so much.
My pleasure. Well, I'm sure we'll cross paths in person one day.
That's right. Yeah. And hey, thanks so much for sticking around for the after party here on YouTube. If you've enjoyed this content, please hit that thumbs up icon because it will tell the algorithm that this was good and it will share with other people. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you when we see you.